Hello everyone, and welcome to this session about South Sudan. I'm very happy to answer some questions with regards to the work that MSF does in South Sudan. I've been working there myself. I am now General Director for MSF based in Amsterdam, but I used to be a head of mission working for MSF in the field, and from 2000 to 2004 I was a head of mission for MSF in South Sudan. So I know the country very well, and I know the challenges from then, but the challenges that the people of South Sudan experienced then are very similar to the challenges that they experience today. So I will answer some of the questions that I've received in advance for this session. The first question is about what are the achievements that you've managed to accomplish in South Sudan. And here I won't talk specifically about myself, but about the achievements of the organization. And we've been working in South Sudan since the end of the 80s, and we've been working in South Sudan whenever there was conflict and whenever there was war and whenever there was famine. And I think one of the biggest achievements of the organization is that we have been able to be there and to work for the people of South Sudan and to be able to be with them in their hour of need and to provide good medical programs for those who were suffering and who needed access to medical care, however terrible the circumstances were that they were caught up in. And so that's one of our biggest achievements. We've been working there for over 30 years with ups and downs, with incidents, but nonetheless we've been able to continue to be in the worst places, working for people who are the worst affected. The second biggest achievement is our medical impact. I'll just talk about Kala Azar, which is a disease that I know very well and that we've been trying to address since the end of the 80s, starting around Leer and Douar in the Unity or Lead State area. Nowadays it is more around Lankien in the Launuer area and on the Raf Island where we see Kala Azar. We've been treating as MSF more than 100,000 people for Kala Azar, a disease which, if left untreated, is 95% fatal. And so these people have been treated and have been saved by MSF. And this is only one example of medical impact that we've had in South Sudan. We've also been treating tuberculosis, we've been treating malaria, we have had surgery, maternal health care, and so a wide variety of programs that we've had across the South Sudan area. The final achievement, I think, is something that is maybe not direct and immediate and not related to our healthcare and our medical programs, but it is about the people that have been working for us. We've had literally thousands of people, Sudanese, that have been working for MSF since the early days, since 1988. And all of these people have been with us, many of them have been with us for years, and they have trained with us, and they have learned with us, and they have worked with us, and have become friends of the organization, and have found friends within the organization. And these are the people that are the human capital of South Sudan. These are people that have learned to work as medical professionals, that have learned to work as humanitarian professionals, and that will have these skills and these talents, whether they work for MSF or whether they work for the country or whether they work for any other organization. So those are three major achievements. Now for the second question, it is a bit related. It's about how many patients do you treat daily in South Sudan. Now we treat thousands of people literally every single day. We are working in 17 projects across the entirety of South Sudan, and those projects, they include treatment for tuberculosis, for Kala Azar, for HIV, for surgery, for malaria, for upper respiratory tract infections, for diarrhea, for women who need to deliver and for elderly that have backaches, but also for sleeping sickness programs in the past. So we treat literally thousands of people across those project locations every single day. It is something that requires a major commitment of the organization, and we're very, very pleased that we're able to do that even in the very, very difficult circumstances of South Sudan, which are, conflict and violence, but also logistical difficulties, because some of the rainy season period, it is very, very difficult in order to be able to deliver care into some of the places in South Sudan. So there's massive challenges, but we are able to deliver care for thousands of people. Just let me give you one example. I was recently in Lankien, and we have an OPD, an outpatient department over there, and they see 2,400 patients per month, and that's in one location out of 17 for one activity. Already 100 people in Lankien that can be helped and therefore can have access to good quality medical care. There's a question that has been raised around malaria and malnutrition during rainy seasons, and yes, it is true that during the rainy season there's much more malaria, and there's also in the hunger gap there's much more malnutrition. And in particular now we all know that there has been warnings around large-scale malnutrition that is happening in South Sudan. And we're working in some of these areas. We're trying to make sure that people who are malnourished and children who are malnourished, that they have access to plumpy nut and other specialized nutritional items in order for them to recover from malnutrition. It's a disease and it needs to be taken very seriously, and we are ready in order to be able to scale up as the needs scale up during the hunger gap in South Sudan today. There was a question from a Sudanese male Facebook member, and this question reads: in displacement camps, why does MSF invest more in the programs of malnutrition and women health care rather than other medical activities? For instance, how about diseases like diabetes, AIDS, tuberculosis and other common diseases in the camps? Well, the reality is that we address the most urgent needs within a given situation, and very, very often those are diseases like malaria. Those are issues such as malnutrition, surgery and so on. But we also do address longer term chronic diseases. It is true, not really at the moment addressing diabetes and non-communicable diseases in South Sudan as we are trying to do it elsewhere in the Middle East, for example. And this is primarily because there are other diseases that are more prevalent in the situation and that cause more mortality within communities. And this is the reason why we prioritize those diseases at the moment. But we also do treat tuberculosis, like I said before, and we do treat AIDS, like I've said before. I have no doubt that in the future we will have to address non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension in South Sudan too, as we are addressing it in the Middle East, but also elsewhere, like in Yemen. Then there was another question that came to us from Facebook. Thank you very much for addressing it to us. And the question reads: so why does MSF work in conflict areas only? How about places here that are deprived of primary health care, where people suffer from a lot of different diseases? And it's true that MSF is a situation that focuses on conflict and crisis situations, there where it is difficult to work and where people have the most needs. This is where we give most priority, and this is where we are as an organization also the most capable. There are other organizations that have a more long-term responsibility or a long-term capacity in order to be able to work in stable areas where there's nonetheless still significant medical needs. So we do focus and prioritize work in conflict and crisis settings, partially because this is where many needs are, and very often most of the needs are, partially because there are not many other organizations who are capable of delivering assistance and working effectively in those types of circumstances, which are sometimes very, very tough and difficult. And particularly at the moment now, if you look at the situation in South Sudan, we can see that there's problems and crises everywhere, from the Equatorias to the Upper Nile area to Unity State, and even more recently there have been fighting and insecurity in Bahr el-Ghazal. So yeah, we're stretched thin. We are focusing on the place where I believe the biggest needs are, and we have little capacity left in order to work in stable settings, even if people have medical needs there that we can address. We're hoping that in those places the Ministry of Health and other humanitarian and medical organizations can provide relief and assistance. Then finally, there's also a question about working for MSF and how you could work for MSF and what sort of conditions you face as an organization, as an individual, if you come to work for the organization like MSF. And we as MSF, we call ourselves a volunteer organization. We are not a professional organization. You come to us and you volunteer your time and your dedication and your passion because you believe as an individual that it is the right thing to do, to care for fellow human beings who are far away from you and who are living in very, very difficult circumstances. And so we want people, whether they come from the Middle East, whether they come from Africa, whether they come from Europe, we want them to come and work for us because we believe that it's a good thing that we have people from all sorts of backgrounds working for us as an organization, who know the context and who know the culture, who know the language, and who care passionately about delivering humanitarian care and medical care into these types of crisis situations. So everyone is very welcome to apply, particularly if you're medical, but not only if you're non-medical too. We need people who can manage and people who can do logistics and people who can do administration and people who can do IT within the organization. So there's a wide variety of profiles and people that we require, and you are very much encouraged, if your heart is in it, if you really believe that you want to help your fellow human being, you're very much encouraged in order to be able to apply. The conditions are not always easy if you're working for MSF. For instance, in South Sudan, the conditions are very, very basic. You're sleeping in a tukul, a hut made of local materials, and there's not a whole lot of entertainment. In fact, for instance, in a place like Lankien, the only thing that you're able to do is to very often is to work and then to relax outside of working hours, if you're not on night shift and night duty outside of working hours, with your fellow team members in the compound where MSF is living. The salary conditions are not extremely generous. We are an organization that believes in putting most of our money in medical assistance and into the field and with our patients, and so we're not paying top dollar in terms of salaries, but nonetheless we take care of our people. We provide them with a reasonable salary, and we pay for the costs that people incur when they're working in a place like South Sudan, for instance in terms of accommodation, but also in terms of food, of course, and insurances and so on. So with that, I've come to the end of my presentation and answering the questions that have been delivered to me beforehand. I hope that you've enjoyed it and it's given you some insight into the situation of South Sudan and into the work that MSF has been doing. And you're welcome to support MSF in any way you can, either in terms of echoing its communications about the situations and the grave situations that we encounter, or by providing donations, that is a possibility, or volunteering eventually your time in order to work in a place like South Sudan in the future. Thank you, and until next time.